Right now, inside Halas Hall, a $48 million contract is officially burning to the ground while coaches desperately try to contain a full-blown defensive mutiny. Nobody expected third-year edge rusher Austin Booker to completely embarrass Chicago's high-priced free agent, but his terrifying camp tape is leaving defensive coordinator Dennis Allen with zero choice. He's not just winning reps, he's physically obliterating starting tackles, shattering the financial hierarchy, and forcing an emergency scheme shift that changes everything. If Chicago's front office thought this depth chart was set in stone, they just got hit with a violent wake-up call that turns this entire defense upside down. Drop everything you thought you knew about the Bears' pass rush because an unscripted superstar is tearing this roster apart from the inside out. When general manager Ryan Poles handed Dayo Odeyingbo that massive 3-year, $48 million deal in free agency, the ink on that contract was supposed to print pure peace of mind. The plan was clean, expensive, and standard NFL corporate logic. Anchor the right edge with a proven, veteran pass rusher, lock up the defensive line for the foreseeable future, and let Montez Sweat wreak havoc on the other side. But practice fields don't care about cap hits, and football games aren't played on spreadsheets. Right now, on the grass in Lake Forest, that multi-million-dollar plan is completely disintegrating because Austin Booker has decided to throw a massive wrench into the front office's master design. And if you think this is just standard summer hype or classic training camp fluff, look closer at the body language on the sidelines. The tension hanging over these 11-on-11 drills is thick enough to cut with a knife because a third-year edge rusher with everything to prove is outworking, outrunning, and flat-out embarrassed the guy paid to keep him on the bench. Booker isn't just taking quality reps, he is physically wrecking first-team offensive tackles, turning projected starters into turnstiles, and leaving the coaching staff in a total state of shock. Every single time the ball is snapped, Booker explodes off the line with a level of raw, violently twitchy energy that makes everyone else look like they're moving in slow motion. It's creating an immediate tactical crisis that Dennis Allen never saw coming, forcing the veteran defensive coordinator into high-stakes damage control before the season even starts. You simply cannot hide this kind of game-disrupting power when the tape is screaming at you in film rooms every morning. The offensive line knows it, the secondary feels it, and the coaches are quietly freaking out because their high-priced blueprint is failing in real time. But wait until you see the exact film metrics from last year's stretch run that prove this isn't an accident because the underlying numbers reveal something far crazier than just a good week of practice. Look at the tape from last year's late-season stretch run, and you'll realize this explosive surge isn't some random fluke. It's the terrifying continuation of a monster taking form. When Booker stepped on the field late in the season, he ripped off 4.5 sacks and 29 total quarterback pressures on extremely limited rotational snaps. He was already flashing game-changing traits as a sophomore, including a clutch, season-defining postseason sack against Jordan Love in the wild-card victory. But what's happening right now at Lake Forest is a completely different tier of destruction. Booker didn't just come into 2026 training camp in better shape. He arrived with a fundamentally transformed lower body stance, a lower center of gravity, and a first-step acceleration that is breaking telemetry tracking systems. When you watch the practice film frame by frame, his get-off speed off the edge is downright unfair. He is regularly blowing up 11-on-11 situational drills before offensive plays can even develop, exploding past starting tackles with a lethal combination of a ghost dip bend and refined hand violence. On back-to-back tackle-for-loss reps in full-pad team periods, Booker left multi-million-dollar offensive linemen visibly frustrated, throwing their helmets and looking over to the coaching staff for answers that simply do not exist. His one-on-one pass rush win rate in camp isn't just grading out as solid, it is matching elite, top-tier starter thresholds across the entire league. Every single metrics sheet compiled by the analysts sitting in the Halas Hall Tower points directly to the same undeniable conclusion. Austin Booker is playing like a franchise-caliber dominant pass rusher right now. Think about how insane that is for a third-year player who was drafted in the 5th round and spent his early career patiently waiting in the wings. While the media was hyper-focused on shiny free agent additions and high-priced veteran contracts, Booker was quietly in the weight room, adding functional lean mass to his 6'5" frame and perfecting a relentless rush plan. Now, every time he fires off the ball in Lake Forest, he looks like a hybrid edge monster built in an NFL lab. He's converting speed to power so violently that tackles are setting deep just to survive, which only leaves them exposed to his blistering inside counter move. You can literally hear the thud of pads echoing off the practice field, facility walls when he engages, and it's sending shockwaves all the way up to the front office executive suites. The tape doesn't lie, and right now, the film is shouting a message that no one in management wants to say out loud. You cannot bench your best player just because another guy carries a massive cap hit. But here is where the story takes a wildly chaotic turn that nobody saw coming. Because when a 23-year-old rising star outplays your headline $48 million free agent prize in broad daylight, it triggers an immediate domino effect that threatens to tear down the entire structural architecture of Chicago's defense. What the coaching staff decides to do next is an absolute high-stakes gamble, and wait until you see the secret position change that Dennis Allen is quietly testing behind closed doors right now. So, what in the world do you actually do when a 23-year-old rising phenom on a cheap rookie contract is completely outclassing your headline $48 million free agent prize in broad daylight? If you're general manager Ryan Poles and defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, you don't panic publicly, you pivot, adapt, and pray nobody calls you out on the massive financial contradiction you're attempting to sweep under the rug. In recent high-intensity padded practices at Lake Forest, Chicago's coaching staff began executing a quiet, desperate tactical experiment behind closed doors. They didn't bench Dayo Odeyingbo outright, because doing so would trigger a media firestorm and signal an immediate front office disaster. Instead, they began sliding Odeyingbo inside to play 3-technique defensive tackle, clearing the runway on the right edge so Austin Booker could stay on the field opposite Montez Sweat. On paper, this sounds like an absolute masterstroke of coaching ingenuity, a genius scheme modification that keeps your most explosive pass rusher on the grass while finding a home for your high-priced veteran alongside interior wrecking balls like Grady Jarrett and Javon Dexter Sr. By shifting Odeyingbo inside, Chicago can theoretically roll out a terrifying front four, packed with raw speed, length, and versatile athleticism that creates nightmare alignment lookups for opposing offensive coordinators. But let's stop pretending this was some long-term tactical vision drawn up on a whiteboard during the offseason. This shift is a frantic emergency intervention forced by Booker's sheer refusal to be denied a starting spot, and it completely disrupts the financial hierarchy and roster balance Ryan Poles spent millions building. When you hand a defensive end $48 million, you pay him to manipulate tackles on the edge, crash the pocket from the outside, and justify a premium salary cap hit at a marquee position. Sliding him inside into the meat grinder of interior trench warfare means he is now taking on double teams against 330-pound guards and centers, a role he wasn't specifically contracted to play, and one that drastically shifts his physical workload. It's a high-stakes, multi-million-dollar gamble that instantly alters the chemistry of the entire defensive line room. And make no mistake about it, veterans in that locker room know exact contract figures. They know who is earning what, and seeing a 23-year-old fifth-rounder force a multi-millionaire out of his natural position creates a palpable ripple effect across the roster. Yet, Dennis Allen is willing to take this massive risk because Booker's explosive trajectory leaves him with no alternative. Every single practice rep confirms that Booker on the edge isn't just an upgrade, it's an absolute game changer that transforms Chicago's pass rush from predictable to utterly dangerous. But just when you think the coaching staff has solved their $48 million puzzle and unlocked the ultimate defensive line front, a massive new variable enters the equation, one that involves franchise centerpiece Montez Sweat. Because pairing Booker's unhinged edge speed with Sweat's elite power triggers a crazy domino effect across the field, but it also exposes a terrifying flaw that heavy NFC North offenses are already preparing to exploit. When you line up a player as dominant as Montez Sweat on the left side of your formation, you automatically alter the geometric rules of modern football. Every opposing offensive coordinator spending late nights in dark film rooms starts their game planning with the exact same fundamental goal: neutralize Sweat at all costs. That means heavy sliding protection schemes toward his side, running backs lingering in the backfield specifically to chip his outside hip, and tight ends getting tasked with physical delay blocks on almost every single passing down. Up until now, teams could afford to roll that entire protective canopy towards Sweat because Chicago simply didn't possess an equally terrifying threat on the opposite side to make them pay for overcommitting. But with Austin Booker busting onto the scene and commanding the right defensive end spot, that entire offensive protection blueprint gets instantly thrown into a paper shredder. Because of the massive gravity-like attention Sweat draws on every snap, Booker is stepping into the ultimate defender's paradise, pure, unadulterated one-on-one isolation against island tackles. When a pass rusher with Booker's blistering first-step acceleration, absurd arm length, and refined bend gets matched up one-on-one with no safety help and no tight end chip, it ceases to be a fair fight. If Booker continues this rapid, unhinged trajectory and takes that coveted year 3 leap into double-digit sack territory, Chicago's defense doesn't just improve marginally. They jump overnight from a respectable top 12 unit into a ruthless top 3 game-destroying defense. Imagine opposing quarterbacks dropping back into 5-step timing routes only to realize that holding the football for more than 2.3 seconds means getting swallowed whole from either side of the pocket simultaneously. It turns third and long situations into an absolute nightmare factory for every signal caller on the Bears' schedule. However, beneath the thrilling allure of high-octane sack metrics and highlight reel strip sacks lies a dark, dangerous structural vulnerability that could completely backfire on Dennis Allen. While sliding Dayo Odeyingbo inside to 3 technique keeps your 4 best pass rushers on the field together, it fundamentally alters the physical density and gap integrity of your interior run defense. Moving a converted lighter edge defender into the gut of the defensive line leaves you susceptible to heavy, physical rushing attacks that love nothing more than pounding the football directly down your throat. In a division as notoriously brutal, physical, and run-heavy as the NFC North, this shift is like playing with live dynamite. Power running schemes like the ones run in Detroit or Green Bay will happily run duo, power O, and inside zone right at a lighter defensive front all afternoon long, daring Chicago to trade defensive stability for raw speed. If this bold line shift weakens the interior run fit and allows physical running backs to gash Chicago for 5 or 6 yards a pop on early downs, the coaching staff will face immediate, merciless heat from both fans and local media. Critics will scream that the front office prioritized flash-over substance, benching veteran stability, and $48 million worth of edge discipline just to chase shiny practice highlights from an unproven young player. The pressure hanging over Dennis Allen and Ryan Poles right now is suffocating because they are walking an incredibly thin tightrope between building an elite, legendary pass rush and accidentally ruining the baseline run defense that holds the team together. Every single decision made from this point forward carries monumental consequences for the franchise's playoff ambitions. And as the final weeks of training camp tick away in Lake Forest, the entire organization is hurtling toward a massive, unavoidable moment of truth. The locker room knows it, the coaching staff knows it, and the front office is holding its breath as the opening kickoff of the regular season looms just around the corner. Which brings us to the ultimate question that is going to dictate the entire narrative of Chicago's 2026 season, and wait until you hear the final verdict on who actually walks out of camp as the undisputed starter on week 1. Austin Booker has officially taken Lake Forest by storm, turning what was supposed to be a quiet right defensive end succession plan into the absolute most explosive, volatile position battle in the entire NFC North. What started as a standard off-season depth chart setup has completely spiraled into an unscripted, high-stakes tactical revolution inside Halas Hall. Dayo Odingbo carries the giant $48 million contract, the front office backing, and the veteran expectation. But Austin Booker brings the unhinged, unstoppable game-disrupting force that forces coaches to tear up their depth charts and rethink their entire defensive philosophy. You cannot ignore the raw impact of a 23-year-old edge rusher who is consistently wrecking starting offensive tackles in practice and demanding first-team snaps through sheer undeniable dominance. So, when the Chicago Bears run out of the tunnel for Week 1, who actually earns the nod as the undisputed starter on the right edge? If you look closely at how modern NFL coaching staffs operate under intense pressure, the answer isn't as simple as just picking one guy over the other. The final verdict facing Dennis Allen and the front office is a high-wire balancing act between financial politics and pure on-field reality. If they yield entirely to the contract numbers, keeping Odeyingbo locked in on the edge while leaving Booker on the bench for rotational snaps, they risk stifling a generational young pass rusher whose trajectory is pointing straight towards stardom. But if they go all in on Booker, benching or repositioning their premier free agent prize before the regular season even kicks off, they send shockwaves through the organization and admit an immediate free agency miscalculation. The most realistic, high-impact resolution unfolding in front of our eyes is that Austin Booker forces a full hybrid system. He hasn't just earned a rotational spot, he has forcefully grabbed a massive share of high-leverage, starting-caliber reps that will see him deployed as a primary edge weapon in key situational packages and passing downs. Even if Odeyingbo takes the field for the very first defensive snap to preserve the starting hierarchy, Booker is poised to play the majority of impactful edge snaps opposite Montez Sweat. His explosive get-off, refined stance, and unyielding pass rush energy make him far too dangerous to sit on the sideline when the game is on the line. Think about what this means for the entire trajectory of the 2026 season. If Booker takes that monstrous Year 3 leap everyone in Lake Forest is quietly buzzing about, Chicago's pass rush instantly transforms from a solid unit into a downright terrifying offensive line-destroying machine. Opposing quarterbacks across the NFC North will have zero breathing room, forced to pick their poison between Montez Sweat's physical power on one side and Booker's lightning-quick edge bend on the other. But if this tactical shift creates unexpected gaps in run defense or generates friction within the defensive line room, the coaching staff will be operating under an absolute microscope from the very first snap. This is easily the single most fascinating, high-octane narrative developing in Bears training camp right now, and the drama is far from over. Every single padded practice, every preseason rep, and every film session at Halas Hall is adding fuel to a fire that could define Chicago's defense for the rest of the year. Now, the floor is completely yours. Where do you land on this epic defensive line clash? Does Austin Booker deserve to be handed the full-time Week 1 starter role on day 1? Or should the Bears play it safe and keep Odeyingbo on the outside while easing Booker into a heavy rotational role? Sound off with your thoughts in the comments section below. I want to see where Monster of the Midway Nation stands on this huge debate. If you enjoyed this deep dive film analysis, make sure to slam that like button, share this video with fellow Bears fans, and hit that subscribe button with notifications turned on so you never miss another daily Chicago Bears breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next camp update, and as always, bear down.